The chemistry. Just full stop, the chemistry. Because he's so jealous that Rory's there with someone else, and it was a really hot scene, I'm not gonna lie. It was so cute. She could have reached out to him and she didn't. He read it as a breakup. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we're discussing Gilmore Girls and why Rory and Logan are the best couple and why he was the best love interest for her. I found out recently that some people actually dislike Logan, which is shocking to me, so I'm here to argue my case. So hear me out until the end if you disagree, because I know some people really don't like him.
I just want to know what it would be like.
As you can tell, this is part of a new series on my channel about Gilmore Girls. I'm going to have a whole playlist for it like I did with Pretty Little Liars, and I've been working on this show, this project, for like the last 3 months. I've got like 50 pages of notes about the show, so buckle up because there's going to be a lot of videos about this show. This is why I've been quieter on social media. This is what I've been alluding to when I said I was working on something big. So here we are.
If you're out on the road, feeling lonely.
I am basically a die-hard fan of Rory and Logan, and this is why I wanted my first video about the show to be about these two, because I was so frustrated with their ending and the fact that things didn't work out between them. I was so annoyed. I was like, I have to hop on camera and talk about this because I know there are people out there that will understand and feel the same, and it's Christmas, so love is in the air. I just want to talk about romance. Now, I was going to have my cat here with me in the introduction because I just got a kitten called Lancelot, Lance for short, but he's very playful and hyper at the moment, so I don't think putting him in front of the camera will be a good idea, but he's adorable. I can't wait to include him in future videos. I've shown lots of him in my Instagram so far, but I wanted to let you guys know if you didn't already. But now that's all out of the way, let's talk about Rory and Logan. I just want to talk about their love story first. Rory and Logan met in her, I think it was her sophomore year of Yale, and they met in the courtyard through knowing mutual people, but their first meeting was extremely realistic because he didn't notice her, he just was not paying attention at all. Right off the bat, they start having a bit of an argument, and Logan's having fun with it, but Rory's genuinely annoyed at him. She doesn't seem to like him that much. I don't blame her, to be honest, because it was a really bad first impression, not gonna lie. I don't know why they made him seem like such a brat. I despised him in that first scene when he's talking to her about how he's better than other people because they're not rich like he is, and it was just so obnoxious. I was like, wow, I hate this guy.
And just because somebody is a bartender at a party for you and your friends, it doesn't mean that you can talk to them like a servant.
Well...
What?
I hired him, I paid him, he served. That's what a servant does.
And what's so odd is that for the rest of the show, sure, he's a bit entitled, but nothing to that degree where he's being that mean. So I don't know why they made him that rude in his introduction. Maybe to bring the drama or something. We see immediately that Logan has a mix of all the guys that Rory's been interested in so far. He seems to have Jess's intelligence, Dean's puppy eyes, Tristan's cheekiness. Like, he seems to be a combination of everything. Things change for her when she's working on this article about the secret society that Logan's a part of, and so he invites her into the inner world so she can see what's going on for her article, and so she's forced to spend more time with him.
How is it organized? And what is happening tomorrow? Is it just as big or bigger? And do people know that you're here? Park rangers or the landowner? Where are we? Are we still in Connecticut?
And the moment I would say things changed for Rory in terms of her feelings is when he says that they should do this dangerous parachute. It's not really a parachute, but it's this jump thing of this height, and he encourages her to take a risk, and she ends up having a lot of fun, and I reckon that was the moment, that was the turning point for her. Afterwards, they have this friendship of sorts. Like, she seems happy to see him, and at this point, by the way, when she meets him, she is in a relationship, so she's not flirting with him or anything. I do think that was part of the reason as to why she didn't really notice Logan. She wasn't talking about him much. Like, she obviously thought he was handsome, but that was it. I think it was because she was so preoccupied at that point in her relationship with Dean, and she was very much focused on that. But then she's at this party and Dean breaks up with her in front of everyone, and it's quite embarrassing. And Logan was really sweet to Rory, and he ends up making her night better, cheering her up, and everyone just has a lot of fun. Before Dean broke up with her, she wanted Dean to meet the guys, and Logan was like, of course, we have to meet your boyfriend, we have to make sure he's good enough for you. So you could tell even then that Logan did value Rory. So Rory quickly develops a crush on Logan, and it's a pretty intense crush. Every time she sees him, she gets really nervous and clams up or awkward.
No, I've just read about him. I mean, he's a big guy.
Maybe get to meet him someday.
Oh, did I show you how I divided these up? Interviews, research.
So how come I never see you around?
I'm around.
Yeah, where?
And I remember there was this scene I loved so much where they're in this bar together talking about journalism, and she thinks it's maybe a date or going to lead to a date. And then Logan says he's got to head off to this party, and she thinks that maybe he'll invite her. So she's like, oh my God. But then he doesn't invite her, and she's like, oh, he's still being quite held back, and he's not really taking things to the next level. He's not asking her out. And you can see Rory's confusion. She's like, he flirts with me. He even nicknamed her Ace, but he wasn't doing anything about it. But then it was interesting. He came to her grandparents' wedding when they kind of got remarried, and he brought a girl with him who he wasn't dating. And Rory didn't really know why he was there, so she ends up coming up to him and asking him to dance, and it was all very odd, and you can just see she's getting increasingly worked up about it because she doesn't understand what's going on. And when they're slow dancing, they're just gazing at each other, but he's not doing anything again, and she's eventually just like, are you ever gonna ask me out? And I don't know, guys, it just did something to me. I love that scene. I love the fact that Moon River was playing in the background. I loved how Rory was so direct with him. And the best part was Logan gave her a really honest response. He was like, oh, I've thought about it so many times, Rory, you know, you're amazing, but you're special, and I'm just not a relationship kind of guy. I don't want to mess you around. I can't be what you would want me to be. And that was why he hadn't asked her out, which made sense, right? It wasn't something for her to take personally. It was just that he knew he was a little bit emotionally unavailable and thought, she seems like a relationship kind of girl. I don't want to mess with her feelings, so that's that. What's interesting though is then Rory says, what made you think I wanted a relationship? I mean, I just had a breakup. I feel very hurt at the moment. I'm not looking for something like that. And then they go and get drunk, and then she kind of says that she wants to kiss him because she just wants to know what it would be like, and then she does. And oh, it was so cute. It was so cute. I wish I could insert the whole scene here if I was allowed to, because honestly, it's beautiful. You have to see it. I do think she was kidding herself when she said she could keep it casual, because very soon after this, she realizes it's not working. That poses the question, why did she get involved with someone like Logan who seems quite unavailable? I think she just felt such a pull to him. He does remind me a little bit of Christopher. I mean, they're two completely different people. You can't really compare them, but there are some similarities there in the sense that Christopher was this rich kid who never really grew up, and also could never fully be present in Rory's life as a father. He was never truly there, and so she does have some abandonment issues, and maybe her trying to get Logan to love her was her way of subconsciously repairing things with her dad, because people say that we're attracted to people that remind us of our parents. She can get Logan to commit to her in a way that her dad never fully could. Interesting theory. At one point, he sneaks in through her window to say goodnight to her because they'd just been hanging out, and he just starts kissing her, but that was it. Then he was gonna go home. He wasn't expecting sex or feeling like he was owed her body because of what she agreed to. In fact, she starts trying to take off his jacket, and he's like, whoa, are you sure? Is this okay? So he always checked for consent and stuff. He didn't just assume things. So I was surprised by that, and I think that made her like him more, and so they end up sleeping together quite quickly. It was a really cute scene, although I do wish that them like having sex for the first time could have been slowed down a bit. It did feel slightly premature. I know it happens in real life, obviously, but I just mean I like a slow burn. Obviously now she's physically involved with him. They're hanging out all the time. Sometimes they'll just call each other and be like, hey, how's it going? All of this. But you could see that she was freaking out and getting anxious at points when Logan wasn't immediately initiating. He wasn't updating her constantly about when he'd call her and when he'd arrange dates. So there were times when she wasn't sure what was going on. Like at one point she called him and said, hey, do you want to hang out? And he was like, sure, come over. And she comes over and he's there with his friends. And she's like, whoa, I thought it was just us two. And he was like, oh, I didn't realize you meant just, like, there were so many communication issues earlier on in the relationship when they were still figuring out where they stood. They had been hanging out a lot, and yet Logan wasn't really initiating anything, and she was getting increasingly anxious and ended up reaching out first rather than just being patient to see what he would do. And he ended up saying that he was going to call her and arrange a date, but he was going out of town for a few days. Now I know what you're going to say, oh, he should have communicated, you can't just leave someone for 2 days, but he was always thinking about her, he was following up and organizing things, but it's just he wasn't texting her all day every day or messaging her all day every day because they weren't in a relationship. They agreed to something casual. I'm not saying I like it. I wouldn't like it. I don't like being left hanging. They know they can date other people, so Rory ends up bringing this guy called Robert to a party who's actually friends with Logan, and there shouldn't be an issue, but Logan's like, I hate Robert, and Rory's like, what do you mean? Robert's your friend? And Logan's like, yeah, but I hate him.
Robert, he's kind of a jerk. Have you noticed he's kind of a jerk?
Nope.
Because he's so jealous that Rory's there with someone else, and you can see him getting increasingly heated.
You look great.
Thank you. Logan, stop. We can't just leave. We have dates.
I don't like this.
Like what?
You here with Robert?
You're here with Whitney.
I know.
So what's the problem?
The problem is you're here with Robert is bothering me, and I don't like that. It's bothering me.
Sorry, do you want us to leave?
It kind of gave fan fiction vibes. It did. I was proud of her because she stood her ground and she was like, you agreed to a casual relationship. You can't now change the rules whenever you want to. It was a really hot scene, I'm not gonna lie. It was so cute because you could see Logan's whole world being shaken upside down, and he was like, wait a second. Then Logan starts distancing from her because he realized he was having feelings for her, and he was worried that she still wanted this casual relationship, and he didn't want to smother her or come across as clingy, so he pulled away for like a good 2 weeks, and that made Rory upset because she took it personally and thought it meant there was a problem with her. And that was the first time she truly broke down. She cries on her mum's lap after getting quite drunk, and she's saying he's pulling away, why doesn't he like me?
Why doesn't he like me? Why doesn't he call me? What did I do?
What did I do wrong? And that just broke my heart so much. And also, I'd never seen Rory get that upset and attached to a guy before, but you could see that she just really cared about the outcome. I loved that scene because it showed that her feelings for him were actually real. So she goes to talk to him like, I can't do this casual thing anymore. It's over. And then Logan freaked out, and you could tell he was worried about losing her. So he said immediately, oh my gosh, like, no, don't leave. And he says it so casually. He's like, we'll just be exclusive then. I'll be with you. And Rory's like, huh? And because he just agreed to it so easily, she's like, no, problem's not solved. You can't just say that. You said you can't be anyone's boyfriend. And Logan's like, okay, well, I know I said that, but this is a new thing for me. Let's do it. I like you. You're amazing. Let's be together. And it was the way he just solved it in like 2 seconds that I thought was so adorable. The fact that he never managed to commit to any woman, never saw himself having a future with someone. And then the minute he knew he was going to lose Rory, he was just like, okay, well, we're basically boyfriend, girlfriend anyway. And then after that, he's immediately just going around introducing himself as her boyfriend. And again, he's a man who knows what he wants, which is how it is. He made it happen, and it really, there was nothing she needed to do. He just agreed to it. Later, he says to her something about her marrying into the family fortune. And I don't think he realized it, but that's literally him saying that he wants to marry her. It was subtle. I think it was just a slip. He didn't realize he'd said it. There's this one episode where they sneak into Yale at night, and Rory gets so excited over the little things, like the fact that the Cocoa Pops are available, and Logan's so amused, and he's like, wow, you're such an easy girl to please. And maybe that was part of the reason he liked her too, because she's down to earth. She's not really high maintenance and snobby, and also she liked him for him, not because of his money, because he is the heir to this fortune. He has this rich background like her. After they're dating for a while, Rory tells him that she loves him, but she doesn't dump it on him. She had a bad experience when she was younger where Dean said that he loved her, and then she felt pressurized to say it back, and he got kind of mad when she wasn't on the same level. So she realizes how shitty that feels. So she says to Logan, hey, I love you, but don't feel pressurized to say it back. You know, I'm just saying it to express it. And I thought that was so lovely of her to, again, not make him feel obligated. And when he didn't say it back, she wasn't like, oh my God, screw you, you don't love me. She was like, okay, that's cool, we're at different paces. And then when he did say I love you, he said it on his own terms and not because she forced him to. And I just love that. Rory later becomes a truly unlikable mess and drops out of Yale. So their relationship, you would think, would be affected by those things, but it really wasn't. They're still stable until literally season 6. But then something really bad happens when Jess arrives, Rory's old sweetheart, and Logan's just really threatened by him because honestly, Rory was being so immature and not just communicating the fact that she was hanging out with Jess, and she was making it weird. He was also a complete asshole to Jess when he sees him for dinner, and just is so patronizing and kind of took his anger at Rory out on Jess, which was not fair. It was one of Logan's worst moments. It was a really horrible scene. Understandably, Rory's like, don't be so rude to Jess. It escalates into an argument and Logan says, we should just go home and talk about this in the morning. And Rory's like, no, I don't want to go home. And Logan's like, oh, screw you then, bye. Rory wasn't taking any of his calls, so Logan saw it as her ghosting him or as a breakup. Neither of them reaching out to the other anymore. And so then Logan started to sleep around. He slept with some of his oldest sister's friends for comfort, which, wow. And this issue comes back later to bite him, but she doesn't find out straight away. So I'll talk about that in a bit. But Logan realizes that kissing random girls or whatever isn't filling the void. He tries really hard to win Rory back. So he turns up at places he knows she'll be every day for a week with her coffee, so she doesn't need to go and buy it for herself. Then when that doesn't work, he hires this coffee cart guy to follow Rory around and give her free drinks, which is actually really thoughtful if you understood Rory's coffee addiction. Not a bad present. And then he's sending her flowers, and then he shows up at her apartment. Like, okay, I'm making it sound super creepy, like he's just showing up, but honestly, you could see in Rory's face that she liked him. You really could. It's just that she was hurt and angry. Normally I would find it stalkerish, but his persistence to me actually made sense, especially because they'd both messed up and he'd been really rude to Jess. It made sense that he felt like he needed to make up for it. But when none of that was working, Logan ditched the sort of superficial, materialistic ways of trying to win her over, and he just goes straight to Rory's mum, Lorelai, to ask for advice.
Okay, I made a mistake and I'm trying to rectify it, but nothing is working. She won't talk to me.
Can you blame her?
No, I'm doing everything I can. Flowers, gifts.
All your old standbys, huh?
What's so amazing about this and so ballsy is that Lorelai literally doesn't like him. She never approved. She's always super judgmental of Rory's boyfriends. I had nothing but respect for Logan's ability to go to this woman who he knows will make fun of him and patronize him and will offer no support. But eventually Logan comes to find Rory and he tells her that he loves her for the first time. He's like, please take me back, I love you. Despite all the gift giving, despite him saying I love you, Rory didn't feel pressurized to take him back, and she still took some time to process it. She's not like, oh my God, I'll be with you, okay, but she's like, all right, we should go out for dinner and talk. She sort of cancelled on them hanging out because she was having this huge problem with the newspaper. Rather than Logan being salty and annoyed, he turns up to help and he literally saves the day with the newspaper.
What? What's happening?
You got it? All right, great. It's been great speaking with you too. I'll tell my father. Bye. And that's how we do it at the Daily News!
It was so sexy, I don't know why, but he just literally saved her. And the best part, which just sealed the deal for me on Logan, like it really did for me, I was like, I love this boy, was that he'd brought a takeaway dinner with him because he knew they might not have time to go out and get dinner, so he'd brought it with him for her, and I can't.
Thanks for the vote of confidence.
You saved my ass.
Infinitely worth saving.
Thank you. So I'm sorry we didn't get our dinner.
We didn't. I thought that we did.
So they get back together, they move in together as well, which she'd never done before with a guy. They also do this couples retreat with Lorelai and her boyfriend Luke, so they're all hanging out together, and Luke actually starts to appreciate Logan because Logan helps him out with a Valentine's Day gift for Lorelai, which was so sweet of him. Then shit hits the fan when Rory finds out that he'd slept with those girls, like his sister's friends, when they were separated. The way she found out was really horrible. Like, she found out through being at this wedding recital and talking to these girls, and then all of them revealed that they'd kissed Logan at some point or the other, and to find out through them rather than through him, I get was beyond horrible, especially because it probably triggered in her these insecurities she'd previously felt about Logan being a player who can't change his ways or whatever. So I understand why she'd be like, oh, this isn't so good. She's acting as if he cheated on her, right? Cheating implies lying, going behind someone's back when you're in a relationship, but he literally didn't cheat. I mean, I understand she thought they were just on a break, taking time off. He was under the impression though that they were broken up, and that's why he was kind of going through his hoe phase, but he thought they weren't together. That was after they'd had that big fight about Jess. She could have reached out to him and she didn't. It was a simple misunderstanding. Like, I understand how beyond gross it is that it was his sister's friends. Like, I get why that's weird, but at the same time, he wasn't cheating. And like he said, he was just feeling really upset about the breakup. He was trying to fill the void and distract himself because he thought they were broken up. Rory does start to form feelings for him again after Logan gets really badly injured in this base jumping accident, and she realizes she could have lost him. But what was interesting is that even when Logan was in the hospital, right, he could have played victim. He's genuinely being self-aware, even though at this point he's literally lying in the hospital. He's still taking accountability. I really liked that. And so at the end of season 6, he's sent away to London for a bit for his father's business. So they have long distance for a while, which they both find really hard, but they still manage to make it work. And even though Logan has an attractive co-worker, he remains faithful. They do have they have a few little arguments throughout about some things, but nothing that actually makes them break up. It's just more they disagree and Logan puts Rory in her place or whatever the case may be. He finally makes a really beautiful offer of marriage in the penultimate episode at Rory's graduation from Yale. And I understand that they were too young and they could have just spent more time dating. But Logan's only fault was that his proposal was a bit rushed. It's a compliment to her, isn't it, that he wants to marry her? It's not an insult. Rory's like, no, sorry, I can't do that. He just takes the ring back and then he's like, okay, well, it's all or nothing. We're either together and married, or we're just not together at all, because he has to move away again and he doesn't want to go take a step backwards and do long distance. So he's like, no, we should get engaged. You should come with me. We should move together.
It's just all kind of wide open. And if I married you, it just wouldn't be.
If we can't take the next step,
What?
I mean,
Does it have to be all or nothing?
yeah, it does.
And Rory just can't do it. And that is literally, I'm not kidding, the end of their relationship. And in the final episode of the show, Logan doesn't appear. Rory doesn't even seem that upset by it. She just moves on as if nothing happened. This whole episode, the way it ended, the whole thing was so dumb. I understand they're trying to show that at the end of the day, Rory's an independent woman, but that's so silly. Rory had tried so hard for so long to make Logan a commitment type of guy, to make him serious. Then he becomes what she wants. He proposes, which is like the ultimate form of commitment, and then she rejects him. I don't get it. I genuinely don't. And she even said herself, I've thought about marrying you so many times. So like, what's the problem then? I don't get it. And same with him. Like, she doesn't want to marry you. Okay, doesn't mean you just need to break up with her for good. Like, you could still stay in contact with her. That's one of the reasons I wanted to make this video, is just say justice for Rory and Logan. How could they not end up together? I'm really upset. I'm going to talk about the revival in a second too, because I consider the revival and the Gilmore Girls original show two slightly separate things. So in this video, I'm more just talking about the 7 seasons of the show. I will talk about the revival in a bit, but I'm just still really annoyed about this, and it makes me feel like the whole relationship was a waste of time because nothing even comes of it. I don't know. But now I'm going to talk about why I genuinely am invested in this couple, why they work.
If you're out on the road.
So I've got literally, I think, 22 reasons. I've literally numbered them, yeah. So 22 main reasons overall as to why I think they work, which, as you can tell, is a lot of reasons. So number 1 reason, he was the first guy Rory properly had interest in who she took a risk for. Jess was like in love with her the minute he arrived and basically fell into her lap. He just turned up. Same with Dean. He was watching her for like weeks and thought that she was special because she liked to read. You know, this has been Rory's life. Then when she arrived at Yale, she tried to ask a few guys out and they kind of rejected her, or they just weren't available. One guy just wanted to hook up and Rory was like, ew. So she started realizing sometimes it's not that easy and she has to work for it a bit. And it was the same with Logan. And there were a few points where she called him first. She had to put herself on the line a bit. She had to be vulnerable. And that was really cool. And the fact that she actually had these feelings for him that seemed more profound than with other guys. She was like to her mum, you've seen him, he's beautiful and really smart, smarter than me, I swear. You can see how much she almost admires him. In fact, I'd say at one point of the show, she's even putting him in a bit of a pedestal. And you know, it was kind of refreshing, and also because it was the same on Logan's end, because he saw her as different from other girls that he dated. That's my second reason, is it's the same for him. She is the first girl he could actually see himself being with, and that says a lot. Before her, he's just messing around, and after her, he actually appreciates the power of investing in relationships. And even before they had their first kiss, even before they wanted to date, even before like anything, when they were just friends, he was still being really thoughtful. He was sending little gifts to her door about the Light and Death Brigade. He'd always find ways to come up and say hi. At one point she needed to get home to her mum and she didn't know how she'd get there, and he was like, you can borrow my car. So he was acting like a boyfriend before he knew what it was like to be one. And my third reason, the chemistry. Just full stop, the chemistry. Sometimes they're talking and she's just ranting about something academic or just going off on a tangent, and he's just completely distracted gazing at her, and it's the look of love.
You get a little crazy when you drink?
Yes, that's it.
I'd like to see that.
Rory, there you are. I've been looking everywhere for you. I'm late. I'm sorry. Don't be mad. Logan Huntzberger.
You're with her?
Going on a year and a half.
The general banter, the snarkiness, the one-liners they have back and forth is just so fun to watch. Every scene is entertaining. My fourth reason is that Rory is older when she meets him, so the relationship feels a bit more mature compared to her relationships with Jess and Dean, who she hung out with in high school. My fifth reason is that he never pressurized her into sex or anything physical with him. Number 6, I feel like Logan is a lot like Rory's mum, Lorelai. It's almost as if she's dating the guy version of her mum, but it makes sense because her mum's her best friend. She's so close to her mum. It's really lovely that she found someone with a similar personality in a dude. He's spontaneous and fun-loving, is very much like Lorelai, a bit laissez-faire. He comes from a rich family and is trying to break free of that oppression, and Lorelai was the same. Like, she had these really controlling parents and is trying to be her own person. Like, the parallels are there. When Rory is upset about something, Logan listens to her and doesn't tell her that she's wrong for having feelings. For instance, when they're in a relationship, she's starting to find this TA attractive and she's a bit embarrassed. She's like, I'm in a relationship with you, so why am I finding this other guy attractive? And Logan's like, it's okay, it's completely normal to admire other people, don't worry, I trust you. He's not like, oh, you bitch. Like, no, he listens to her. Number 8, they both come from wealthy families, which meant he wasn't intimidated by her status like Jess or Dean could have been. Rory and Logan's similarities in their backgrounds actually, I think, works in their favor because it makes them quite similar. Lorelai, Rory's mum, was never comfortable with this rich lifestyle, and that's why she ended up with Luke, I think, because he's this down-to-earth guy. But as for Rory, she kind of loved going to all the fancy parties and events. She loved getting dressed up. She loved, you know, the privilege of everything. And so she fits in with that world. And I think she would have fit in with Logan's world, actually. Number 9, Jess as a boyfriend was really witty and sarcastic, but I think Logan is actually even wittier. And so he matched Rory's intelligence really well. Number 10, he's fun. Number 11 is just his nickname for her, Ace. And then when he's actually being serious, he calls her Rory. Like, stop, literally stop.
Oh, Ace, you need some help there?
Hey, Logan.
Hey, Ace, who's your friend? Hey, Ace. Man, Ace, I'm impressed and partially terrified.
Number 12, they were on each other's level, morally, intellectually, spiritually. I never said he was perfect, but he is the perfect man for her. He can be selfish, he can be really rude, he can be entitled, but Rory's literally the same, and so they go together like yin and yang, like they balance each other out. For example, when they stole a boat together, that was a really stupid thing to do. When she wanted to get drunk and then have sex with him in the middle of her grandparents' wedding thing. That was so dumb. My point is, I don't think dating is about finding someone who is the definition of human perfection. It's about finding someone who matches up with you and who realistically actually matches you and your world values. And I think they had that in common. Let's be real, Rory in season 5 is a mess. And her flaws kind of match up with Logan's flaws. And by the final season, she'd gone backwards, and then Jess had gone in the opposite direction. He'd grown so much. I felt like he was too good for Rory. I felt like she was a different person. She'd really gotten very used to this lifestyle she had because she was spending so much time with her grandparents. And number 13, their relationship was the longest lasting, so we got to see them properly together as a couple, moving in together. They lasted the longest, and that actually allowed us to have a vibe and a feel of what they'd be like together. Number 14, the way Logan went above and beyond to win Rory over after their breakups was like so cute. Number 15, I just love the whole romantic build up to their relationship. The angst, the kisses, the jealousy, the teasing, like 10 out of 10. Number 16, the fact that Logan defended her when his family bullied her, when his dad bullied her, like he stood up for her, and I just love that. Logan was also really good at being honest with Rory when she messed up and crossed the line, especially when it came to her being ignorant about her own privilege. She liked to pretend that she was like this down-to-earth girl and, you know, I hate the rich. And he'd be like, what do you mean? You're literally one of us. Like, what are you talking about? He was very self-aware in the fact that he was a trust fund kid. He acknowledged it, and he was like, Rory, don't pretend you're something other than what you are. And I really liked that. He needed to put her in her place a bit. Rory also had a positive influence on him. She called him out and she encouraged him to have a good work ethic and to pursue what he wanted to do. And that definitely changed him, because by the 7th season, he realized he didn't really want to work for his dad anymore, and he wanted to actually work hard, be his own person. And I love that for him. Number 18. He was honest with her. He didn't tell her, I love you, until he meant it. He didn't pretend he could have a relationship when he felt like he couldn't. And he set the terms. And that's actually really healthy. Number 19, the fact that they actually match each other's energy, that they laugh together, that they have fun. It's not like one of them's an energy vampire and the other one's like really fun. No, they balance each other out. And number 20, the fact that when Logan's drunk, he starts like getting all cuddly with her and kind of nuzzling into her. Like, it's so funny. I love it.
Boring.
No.
It's not here.
Oh, come on. Yeah, they just got it last year.
Don't make me go. Oh, where's Omaha? Where's Omaha?
Oh, just get in.
Number 21, the fact that Logan loves the worst and best of her, regardless of whether she's in her high achieving mode, whether she's being selfish. For example, she's going down this really negative spiral in the later seasons, thinking about dropping out of Yale. She's becoming really ungrateful for what she has and just very entitled. Logan doesn't just ditch her, because he still wanted to set her on track. He wanted her to do well. He understood that she was a human with weaknesses and that she wasn't perfect. And it kind of annoys me when people say, Jess was the only one who ever truly understood Rory. No, Logan understood Rory just as well as Jess did. It's just that when Rory ditched Yale, Jess was more annoyed. So he was like, what's wrong with you, Rory? Why did you drop out of Yale? What happened to you? This isn't you. And Logan literally felt the exact same way. He just didn't express it as angrily and as directly, but he very much wanted Rory to succeed too, like Jess. He wanted Rory to return to school. He even said to her, like, oh, you just need a bit of a mental health break, but you'll be back at uni in like a month, I can guarantee, you know? He really did believe in her academic abilities, and he was genuinely disappointed in her for dropping out of Yale. At a party, she was making jokes about how she just doesn't give a shit anymore and how she's just being spontaneous, and Logan was just sat there like sipping his drink. He went really quiet, and I think he was really scared that he'd been a bad influence on her, because everyone was calling him king of the sloths, and you can tell it was just bothering him, because he was like, ugh, I don't want to rub off on Rory in a bad way and make her want to drop out of school. My point is, he did want her to succeed as much as Jess did, and also Logan is not responsible for Rory's bad life decisions. Like, he's not there to be her mum, you know? It's her choice at the end of the day. And my final reason for why I love them is the way they speak to each other, as in the way their dialogue is written and the way that they express love.
You haven't even seen the bedroom yet.
Wow.
What?
Okay, fine, but don't think that this is gonna work a second time.
No, Logan, I didn't mean... No, I seriously meant that you hadn't seen the bedroom yet.
You're making me feel cheap, Ace.
Logan!
Every line, every romantic proclamation, I feel like is just phrased so well. Like when Logan's trying to convince her to do the jump and he says, if you climb up here with me, it's one less minute you haven't lived. Are you kidding me? It's just so good. It's everything, it's everything. I love these two so much. I could go on and on and on about them. I'm obsessed. What can I say? Maybe for some people, Logan would just be a terrible love interest, but for Rory, he's perfect.
If you're out on the road.
So now I just want to quickly discuss why people don't like Logan. There are, I think, maybe 6 legitimate reasons that I understand as to why Logan's not so great and why it's okay to dislike him. So number 1, people don't like him because of that really bad first impression they just can't get over. It was a really weirdly written scene because he's being so nasty. He's acting like a privileged little douchebag. So that's the first time they meet in the courtyard and in the corridor. Both times he's just super obnoxious and he's like, I'm the shit. And he literally calls people servants who were there to like pour drinks or whatever at a party. And it was just horrible. Second reason, just incompatibility. People think they wouldn't work because they just don't align, and I get that. A lot of people were saying that in the long-term marriage wouldn't have worked out because Rory was too work driven and she wanted to go and study and then be a journalist and do this and do that, and that she was such a workaholic that she wouldn't have just been able to chill and like be a stay-at-home mum or something, and that would have conflicted with Logan's lifestyle because his family wanted him to just basically have this pretty woman on his arm and that would kind of be it. And so people were saying, well, maybe Logan wouldn't want her to just, you know, go out and pursue her career. Maybe he'd want her to stay at home and chill, and she wouldn't want that. And maybe that is part of the reason as to why he didn't push her super hard to go back to Yale, because he kind of thought, well, I'm going to be making so much money anyway, I'm so successful, like, you don't need a job or a career, you can just be with me. And yeah, that could be an issue. Number 3, them stealing that boat together. Yeah, there's nothing I can say to excuse this one. Like in general, his entitlement, him stealing the boat because he just could as a joke or something. And then when he was at Emily's dinner and he literally hid something, like he took this jewelry box and he was like, rich people are so rich, they don't even notice when stuff's missing from their house. Then he was surprised when Emily noticed straight away and she was like, oh my God, where's my antique jewelry box gone? And Logan doesn't say anything, he just sits there. And it was so embarrassing. I got secondhand embarrassment, and it was so dumb because this was his moment to like impress Emily and Lorelai and shine. Lorelai saw him steal it, so she obviously thought he was crazy. That general privilege was really unattractive. The only reason why I don't mind is because Rory was so similar. I just, you know, they work, but geez. Number 4, his treatment of Jess was just too much. Like, I can't, unfortunately, there's no way I can argue my way out of this. It just was. He was so disrespectful. Jess was actually keeping his anger issues under control, being really respectful, and Logan was just being an ass to him. He was being rude about Jess's book. He was making fun of Jess.
Hey, do we cheers? I don't think we cheered. That's bad luck. Let's cheers.
I think we did already, twice.
Well, let's do it again.
He wrote a book.
Oh, you penned the Great American Novel, Jess.
Wasn't quite that ambitious.
So what are we talking here? Short novel, Kafka length, or longer?
I haven't read it yet.
Yet? Well, at least you're gonna have one reader. That's something.
Yeah.
Jess didn't deserve that. Number 5, the fact that he hooked up with his sister's friends after their separation. He could have found any girl. Why the friends? It's just a bit weird. Like, it's kind of icky. Oh, and also the fact that then when Rory found out, he blamed the girls he slept with and called them worthless idiots, and that they love doing crap like this and causing trouble. Like, what were the writers thinking with this scene? Like, what? Why would he blame the women he hooked up with? What is he talking about? Like, why is he blaming the women and saying they're idiots? Like, if they're such idiots, why did you sleep with them, dude? What? And the final point people have that I kind of agree with is that he never came to terms with his relationship with his father, so he did have a lot of insecurities and stuff, and that definitely manifested in like certain ways he behaved that weren't so good and weren't so healthy. All the other arguments people have against Logan I just don't really agree with, to be honest. Like, one argument people have is that he has so many first world problems and he's so privileged that he's just not relatable. You can't feel bad for him, and so he's just unlikable. I don't really get that. I mean, to be fair, I was hardly throwing a pity party for Logan. I mean, like, he is very privileged. Like, half the stuff he was complaining about, I was like, okay, like, it's not that bad. But I do sympathize with him at the same time because he grew up in boarding school, so he was kind of lonely with this horrible, nasty dad, and then this really negligent, rude, vain mom. He had a lot of unmet needs, and I don't think it matters how much money you have. Like, if you have parents that aren't nice to you, it's just like living in a gilded cage. We saw how awful Logan's dad was in particular, like his complete lack of respect for Logan's boundaries. He didn't care about embarrassing Logan in front of his friends or his girlfriend. He didn't care about being mean to Logan's girlfriend. So overall, I'm surprised actually that Logan turned out to be as nice a person as he was. I haven't watched the revival yet. I'm gonna do its own video or something like that, so I'm sort of about to watch it, but apparently Logan is horrendous in the revival. Like, so many things are poorly written in the revival, and I need to have a whole video about that. But basically, he's working for his dad. If that's true, I don't know why that takes back all the character development he made to not be associated with his dad. His and Rory's relationship is really disrespected in the revival, even though they reunite again and start dating after years. So they're like in their 30s. They haven't grown up at all. They're both cheating by seeing other people at the same time. So they're not taking their relationship seriously or their relationships with their partners. I just don't understand how they could regress like this. Rory rejected Logan's proposal. Why would she go back to him? And then as for Logan, he wanted to commit to her. Why would he then be engaged with someone else and then hanging out with Rory just for funsies? Like, what is that? That's why I'm putting off watching the revival, because I'm like, that just doesn't interest me. And actually Matt, who plays Logan, says that he felt like Logan was the best fit for Rory, and he said if he had written the show, Rory and Logan would have ended up together, which is really sweet. But to be fair, he also said that he felt like each of Rory's boyfriends came along at the right time to teach her something when she needed it, and he said each one was the right one for the right time, and that's how he thought about it, which I actually agree with so much. I feel the same way. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Rory and Logan. I'm currently working on my script for my overall Gilmore Girls deep dive, my review of the show, which you guys have no idea like how much blood, sweat and tears are going into this. I'm so excited for you to see it. This was like a little teaser video, I guess you could think of it as. I'm really glad I started watching the show around this time. I started watching it around fall, and I had no idea that's when you were meant to start watching Gilmore Girls, and that it's this seasonal thing people do. I didn't realize. It's quite funny. I just started watching it, and then apparently everyone was saying it's Gilmore Girls season, and I was like, is there a Gilmore Girls season? So I feel like the way I've timed this project is actually really good. Make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell, and then also you get all notifications. Really important. Most of you guys haven't done that, and you need to, otherwise YouTube doesn't notify you. So that's it from me, and I love you guys so much, and I will see you for the next video. Mwah.